I'm going to talk to you about how to raise $1 million using virtual assistants as part of the founder's journey. And here we go. Please save questions for the end. I'm going to try to keep this deck to less than 25 minutes, and we'll have 5 minutes for Q&A, and we'll roll on through. So let's go. Again, Ryan Angott, I'm your presenter today. I've been privy to be the son of a serial entrepreneur. My dad was Entrepreneur of the Year in Michigan about 10 years ago. I've had some success. I currently have been in or now own 4 businesses. Between my dad and I, we have 45 patents. My current company, my main mainstay of business is TechLok. I've raised personally $2.2 million in the last little under 2 years, but I learned it from the old wise man, my dad, Paul. He's raised $35 million from angels over those last couple of ventures using a proven formula, which I've adopted, and I'm here to share with you some of the ways that I've made it successful. I call this my 80-20 rule. So, if you're running a business or working in the day-to-day, you think about where your time is spent. And I have found that with fundraising, it's not that difficult. Yes, I've got a proven track record, a great product, and a great team. And by the way, if you don't have that, you're going to probably not be successful. So there are fundamentals. I am assuming that you have a lot of those fundamentals down in your business. I'm not here to talk to you about those fundamentals. I'm here to talk to you about fundraising. So assuming you've got the right components of your business, I have found that 80% of my time, 80% of the time raising money, it's administrative. Only 20% of the time, I'm actually dialoguing with a potential investor or following up, which a lot of that can be delegated. So, it's the 80-20. By using this system, I can delegate 80% of my time. So I just take the 20% of the time of only the stuff Ryan Angott can do to focus on closing investors. And I'll show you how. We all know the problem. This could be a founder. This is a startup. This could be for anybody. But here's the challenge fundamentally. I now have 12 employees for TechLok. We're still in startup mode. We're a small, growing new tech accessory company. How do you run your business? How do you do sales and marketing and manage your operations director while finding time to fundraise? And that is always the founder's dilemma and problem. You essentially have 2 jobs as a founder or a startup. You've got to run your business, execute your idea, and do all the things you need to be successful. And you also have to raise money at the same time. So I'm here to educate you on how to do that effectively and efficiently. As we all know, cash flow is the absolute lifeblood of your business. Fortunately, I have a great VP of finance who keeps my crazy ass visionary mindset on track and doing the things I can do and puts me in checks and balances with a very extensive cash flow plan. If you don't have that, you need one, as any business needs great cash flow planning. But failing to plan is probably the biggest reason why a lot of startups go under. So getting ahead of that and ensuring that you know where the cash is coming from in a money raise and planning accordingly. With our business, I'm actually going to raise another $300,000 between now and the end of the year. I know exactly our monthly budget, when that well dries up, what our projected revenue is, and when cash flow can come offset that to hopefully get us to be break even by end of year. And then we'll be certainly cash flow positive in 2025. And that's typical with any business, but planning is incredibly important. My philosophy as founder, really any business owner operator, is do only the stuff you can do and delegate everything else. So think about in your daily routine what you do. Are you setting up appointments? Are you chasing people down on LinkedIn? Are you doing email follow-ups? Are you doing your social media? Well, you've got a finite amount of time in the day. And I believe founders or startups fail because they are not spending the time on things that move the needle. They're not being strategic. They're not forming those partners or closing deals. They're doing a lot of admin work or stuff that doesn't make a big impact. So this model in raising money, it's a ton of time. I've raised over 2 million bucks. It's a lot of time. And there's a couple different avenues to go about, which I'll talk to you about. But within the money raising, and that's your fundamental job as a founder. If cash flow is not coming in from sales yet, because you're not quite there yet, your only source of revenue to pay all your people and your bills and overhead is fundraising. So how can you delegate your time so you can just focus on running the business and closing deals instead of doing a lot of admin support? So here's what I found over my years of experience and leveraging my dad's multiple years of raising cash. So let's start with the basics. There's many different avenues to raise cash. I have found what's worked for me and fitting for our business is that, and if I've only needed a couple million bucks, I'm not looking for 20, 30, $50 million. I'm not a cybersecurity company or a software company. So it's different. So just take this with a grain of salt that for my company, TechLok, we're going to end up all in raising 2.5 million. That'll get us to break even. Our goal is to do 3 million in sales next year, which gets us to about, 300-400 grand in profitability. And then the business just goes, it hockey stick grows, which every startup needs to have to show that great investor return and have some type of liquidity event in 3 to 5 years. So because we don't need that much, we've gone the angel route. Pros and cons of raising cash with angels and how this can flow with your, if you are or not using VAs. And this is not a VA sales pitch. This is me just giving you a formula of what's worked. Pros with angel deals, they move quicker, usually 1, maybe 2 calls with an angel that could write a check for 40 grand to $500,000. I've had everywhere in between. Terms are easier to be digested and you don't get beaten up as much. You can have staggered valuation. When our company was itty bitty 2 years ago, and it was my dad and I and one other part-time employee, we now have 12. We had a $2.5 million valuation. As we've hit milestones along the way, we now carry an $8 million valuation. You also get more control on your deal and your business. The cons to this are more deals, more angels take more time. I think we have 23 angels at TechLok, consisting of our 2.2 million. Part of that, I have, between my dad and I, $300,000 into our business. But so you've got more volume of investors. That requires more investor management, admin, taxes, K1s. You got to do a lot more presentations. And it's smaller bites of the apple versus a VC who might write my whole check for $2.5 million. So pro and a con to both. Here's my VC pros and cons. Now, I personally have not pursued VCs for the reasons on the con side, but the pros are you might get one big investment or series of investments as you grow. They may have an ecosystem of plug and play support. Oh, you're this little software company. Well, we have a formula. We've done a ton of deals with software companies. Here is the cookie cutter approach on how Dell Ventures knows that this company will or will not be successful using their VC methodology. And it really can also qualify your business to be backed by Blackstone or Dell Ventures or any of these big VCs. You're a real player, and it gives you a lot more maturity and reputation when you are trying to bring on new big logos as customers. The cons for VCs, terms. Their terms can be extremely difficult and one-sided. Valuation gets greatly scrutinized. I'm pretty confident that I would not be getting an $8 million valuation with a VC versus an angel. Just kind of the nature of the beast, because they think, just like Shark Tank, for those of you who watch, that they add so much value and can pump you up so much faster that they think the business is often more than what you think it is or have justified. VCs can also have control. They can dictate performance. If you don't hit X milestone by a certain date, they may take more ownership, or they may have the right to broom you as CEO. Those are some of the pitfalls or kind of snakes in the VC deal you need to be cautious of when doing your prospecting. So this is really more about what's worked for me and my experience. So obtaining angel investment. As I said earlier, God, my nose is itching here. As I said earlier, obtaining an angel deal requires fundamentals first. If you don't have a great idea, a great business, something that has differentiating value, I would get off the presentation right now, because even with all the fundamentals I'm teaching you, if you don't have a product or service or something that has market traction, you're not going to go anywhere. So I could tell you all the things in the world, but you need the fundamentals first. You need a great team, having people that are bought in or have proven leadership around you. You need a bang up, badass, great pitch in Canva or PowerPoint. In this presentation itself, I didn't do any of this. My VA helped do this. So this is some of the ideas of ways to delegate time. I mean, I don't have 30 hours to make a deck like this. I let my VA do it, and it cost me, about $100 in labor and time. You need to be also all in on raising big money. I've given up my job 2 years ago. I had a great full-time job. I've written big checks for my company. I also can act as a piggy bank if I don't have cash raised. We are very well documented on our finances, legal. We use QuickBooks. All those fundamentals need to be in place for you to raise capital. If you don't, even if you're a great pitch person and a great deck, you still need those key components into your deal. It's going to be hard to close money. So where do you start? I think you have to start with some of the fundamentals. Obviously, start with if this is new to you, and I don't know the audience, I know you're either a startup or a founder, but you got to have a great deck. You got to have a great idea and a great business. I should put that as number one. You need a phenomenal deck. You need a very punchy executive summary that's well written. You need a 1-page, a 3-page, and a 5-page version. And that needs to be updated probably quarterly or bi-quarterly. And your assistant or you can do that work. Again, I delegate as much as I can. Then you want to have a prioritized target leads list on who you're going after, especially leveraging your Rolodex. I don't care what you say. I've pitched to many angel groups. I've done cold outreaches. I've done all sorts of stuff. I absolutely stand on the people that know you and trust you. Your work ethic, your past success, your history, and that's why it's called kind of the angel friends and family round, even though I don't have really many family in the deal. But people that you have a warm connection to is essential in raising cash. Even people that are on LinkedIn. I have almost 4,000 followers or connections on LinkedIn, wherever you want to call them. Well, those people see my content. They see my journey along the way. And I have admin support that does a lot of that content for me, because I don't have the time to post a new video and do that stuff daily. But when people see traction in your journey in a LinkedIn contact, even though they're not a friend or family, they're warm and they have a background of you. So starting with LinkedIn and going through your I have gone through all 4,000 my connections, leverage my VA to go through all those within an hour, and she'll reach out on my behalf to invite them to a webinar or send them an executive summary or ask them if them or anyone else may have interest in our deal. Those are unique ways to leverage your time. I sure as hell don't have time to go through 4,000 names and email certain people within that list. So that's an example of leveraging your Rolodex. When I talked about a deck, this is one of our slides. Our product sells physical laptop security is one of our products. You got a little animation here. This, I have about a 30 slide deck. Sometimes I shave that down or more depending on my audience, but all of my decks I have very little verbiage. I have great photos that they found online, and I have a great animation. This slide says there's a laptop stolen every 53 seconds in America. Our product helps solve that problem. Again, this is just a snapshot of some of the work your VA could do to make you a badass PowerPoint deck to enable you to pitch to your potential investors. Another example of one of the slides that we show, just putting that together. Again, pulling the logos from online, making it look good and organized, putting it in the center here. This is just kind of some of the snapshot or some of the ways my VA does the executive summary and the decks for me so I could focus on closing deals. And this is the last slide. Some of the people, one fundamental I have found, that's our product LapLock, that's the first bag and laptop security product in the world to lock up laptops and bags. But what I found is that people at the end of the deck or the executive summary leave this out. It doesn't matter about your marketing, your competition, your background, yada, yada, yada. It's all about, what does it mean for me as an investor? If I'm writing you a check, what do I get? And so a breakdown on this slide is, if you, again, $8 million valuation, if I commit $80,000 to your company, I own 1%. Our goal is to sell TechLok at a year 5 EBITDA we'll have a year 5 EBITDA at 15 million. The exit multiplier in the computer accessory category is 10x, is the typical. That would mean my company would be worth 150 million to sell to Microsoft, a Dell, a Belkin, a Kensington, somebody. Over time, as we do profit sharing, my investors get back 300,000 over 5 years in profit sharing bet on that 1% ownership. And that the exit at the return on the exit is $1.5 million. That means for me as an investor, I wrote a check for 80,000. Over 5 years, I got $1.8 million back. That is a 22x multiplier, or a initial rate of return of 82%. The return, having those fundamentals set up is imperative on enticing people to look at your deal. Angel deals want rhyme and reason and mathematics. If you're going to talk a big game, you better sure as hell have a backup plan on how you're going to get chapter by chapter, year by year to obtain your sales goals. Obviously, we have that in a much more thorough deck with more time. My investor pitches are typically 1 hour if it's one-on-one. Half hour for presentation and a half hour for Q&A, but it kind of all depends on the situation and how big or broad the audience is. So finding the right groups, this is another task that my assistant has done a phenomenal job for me. You know, you will find, and you can see this is a snapshot of our legit spreadsheet from Maria's notes. You know, this is, you can see it's starting, well, there's a number here, but we're on A's and it goes down. You've got international, you've got individual, you've got groups. Well, she basically went through, you know, hundreds of hours on filtering what angel groups are a fit for us. You know, you can see here, this one right here, Angel Investor Forum. Prioritize the state of Connecticut, but they also increase the number of investments in women and minority-owned businesses. I'm not a woman. I'm not a minority. I'm not in Connecticut. I'm not going to pursue that group. It doesn't fit to their investment criteria. Well, when you have hundreds or thousands of angel groups out there, they all require their own systematic approach, their own research. They almost all have their own LinkedIn group. They might have Facebook groups. And in addition to that, you have to apply to each one of them individually. So if we're gonna apply to TechLok to the top 50 groups, not only do we have to apply within their format, which I've had angel groups, one group itself took about 30 hours. 30 hours. It's not a copy and paste. They want you to upload all your key managers, their LinkedIn links. They want your photos. They want your logo. They want all sorts of stuff. It is so administrative wise painful to do one-offs. That's the downside of the angels, guys. But there's pros to it. If you have the systems and strategy in place, like a VA, to leverage your time, they can do 80% of that work for you. And when you get that call, they go, yeah, I like your deal. We want to bring you in and pitch. Obviously, you have to pitch. You have to close. They're buying and investing in you, not an application. So I'm just kind of letting you know there's so much data and opportunity out there, not only with the groups, but then you have individuals that may be members of groups that you can look at on LinkedIn and have you or your VA reach out to. Those are all ways of getting possible connections to raise your money. And those are things that we've done over time to raise cash. Looking at post-pitch. So after we've got a group of investors, what happens from now? You've got a database. I have a running database of about 200 investors that have either heard our pitch or showed some interest. Maybe they said no, they said not right now. And we know this is all deal related. When cash is great and the stock market's up, people are more prone to be doing investment deals. So they sold a house or whatever. So you never know when timing may be better to hit these people up to see if they do want to engage on an investment standpoint. So managing that database, connecting with them on social media, and continuously kind of staying top of mind is imperative for nurturing potential investors. Just like nurturing a sale, selling stock is just the same as selling widgets. There's really no difference. I already talked to you a little bit about this, but I can't underestimate the power of LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can do a search of people in their title that says, I'm an investor, I'm an angel investor, I like deals, I'm in Michigan, or I'm in Colorado, blah, 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 blah. It just takes a ton of time to go through it all. But if you build a systematic, strategic approach, leveraging LinkedIn can be arguably your best resource for getting investor leads and hosting webinars. Outside of closing your deals, beyond that, leveraging someone else, a VA, an assistant. I don't say do it yourself. That's a last source, because what you need to focus on spending time doing $200, $300, $400 an hour level work versus $10 an hour work. And we have VAs that start from $7 an hour to go up to $12.85 an hour, depending what you're looking for. Document management, subscription agreements, operating agreements. When we make a modification to an operating agreement, or there's a member vote, or there's tax details or K1s, scheduling investor calls. I have my assistant Christina sets up every investor. I usually do a quarterly or bi-quarterly touch base with them for 15 to 20 minutes. I also do a group one twice a year. But there's planning and a PowerPoint and follow-up and blah, 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 blah. A lot of that stuff an admin support assistant can do to help take time off your hands. One of my last slides is my last kind of fundraising tip as just a general reference for those raising cash. I've found that offering a referral percentage to current angels is a great way to get new investors that are trusted. A lot of people would say, oh, Stuart McClure, he's in on the deal. If Stuart's in on it, I got to look at this. It gives you a warm qualification. It takes a cold lead to warm lead. So ask your current investors. And I give my guys 10% in referral equity for leads that come in for referrals. So that's number one. If someone invests, Joe Smith, our current investor, recommends, Mike Jones, and Mike comes in at $50,000, I would give that investor $5,000 in additional equity to their current deal. It worked great for me. Get a PowerPoint coach. I've learned a lot. A great coach can really give excellent feedback and level you up to pitch to investors. Short, sweet, succinct. Get outside feedback on your pitch. That also goes to point two. Have your documentation buttoned up. QuickBooks, and tax software, anything to provide a grocery list of items. You can, we're full transparency at TechLok. You want to tear into any of our documentation, go for it. Our operating agreement, subscription agreement, we've got a phenomenal law firm, our patent documentation, all that stuff is airtight, allowing you to raise money. If you aren't airtight and you're trying to get a lot of money, it'll be a much harder road because the investors are looking for that level of detail. Be all in. I left my job 2 years ago. Not everybody could do that, but I've invested cash and I'm all in. I also don't take a paycheck yet at TechLok. It certainly helps my credibility and people know that I'm all in, and it's something that I found investors really look for. Just shows your level of commitment to the project. Be invested financially and time-wise. I talked about that. I also talked about being transparent with your documentation. And guys, at the end, don't be afraid to ask for help. I don't have all the time in the world to talk to every one of you for an hour, but if people want to ping you with an email or whatever, get a mentor, get some help. Other entrepreneurs that have had great success often want to give back and kind of feed the beast in the ecosystem. Without startups and incubators and startup support or accelerators, we don't have jobs in America or rest of the world. Every company like Amazon or Google or Microsoft starts in a garage or at somebody's house, and it grows to what it is today. So people are more than willing to help give back and watch things grow. So don't be afraid to ask for help. So I talked a lot. I was about under my mark. Any questions that the group may have, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see my questions. And that is it. Chat. Oh, I got a lot of note taker chats here. Anyone have a question they'd like to call out? I'll give it another minute. And I'm adamant. TechLok is my main business. I started using VAs two and a half years ago when I found that after my third local person who I was paying $25 an hour, and after the third time the person flaked out on me, I got actually a cold email from SAS, the Filipino virtual staffing agency I co-own now. And they said, hey, we're here to cater to entrepreneurs and startups. We're looking for an American partner. Do you have interest? I said, hell yeah. Like, we have a huge labor problem in the US, especially for entrepreneurs. So I started with one. I now have 5 running my entire, not my entire business, but many administrative elements to TechLok for appointment setting, social media, customer service, general admin support. Like Christina helped me with all my fundraising. And again, that service is $7 an hour on a month-to-month basis, and it goes up to $12.85 depending on what you're looking for. And guys, the beautiful part about a VA, and not just my company, Strategic Assistant Staffing, most other VA companies require a minimal commitment, like 3 months. Our minimal is 1 month. So as your business expands or contracts, you're having a slow quarter or a slow month and you don't know where things are going, to stop and start a service is a phenomenal value to a startup and an entrepreneur. Or having someone being a utility player to help with the fundraising, help with social media, help with your day-to-day operation, your business. I can't recommend an extra set of hands, even part-time, just to help do a lot of the stuff, form filling and research. There's just so much stuff that comes as a founder. So that's kind of my spiel. Feel free to email me, Ryan@laplok.com. Actually, I'll just put my email in the chat here. I've got 2 emails, Ryan@laplok.com or Ryan@strategicassistant.com. Happy to answer any questions about fundraising. I'll take a limited amount of calls one-on-one if you want to do that. My admin, Christina, will set that up. And if anyone has interest in using one of our VAs, feel free to engage, and we love to help you out. It's 2:00. If we don't have any other questions, that's a wrap. Thanks for your time.